Yep, that's right. Only 8. I'm slipping. But for real though, as you'll know if you've watched Laurie's most recent Explain video, legacy games are often big, intense, expensive, time-consuming games. So frankly, the fact I've got 8 under my belt is nigh on medal-worthy. Where's my parade? But hey, if you're an obsessive fan of the number 10, I've heard pretty good things about Charterstone and very good things about Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated. There, boom, 10. Seriously though, while most board games are by design infinitely replayable, infinitely resettable game states, legacy games break all the rules, thug life, etc. Every game, things happen that permanently changes the game board, the decks of cards, the player characters, so every subsequent game is different, chaining a series of games together in a grand overarching narrative like a season or seasons of a TV show. It's a style of game and it's only been around for 10 years, but already the top 2 board games of all time, according to BGG, the most official website you can get about board games, are both legacy. So they're kind of a big deal. Let's kick off 2021 right with some of the most different, engaging and innovative game experiences you can have in the hobby. This is a collection starter and here are our top 8 legacy games. Number 8, Risk Legacy. You never forget your first. Back in 2011, Rob Daviau, the godfather of legacy games and all-round swell fella, designed a variant on Risk. You know Risk, it's the game of increasing anger, doomed attempts to hold on to Asia, and one person squatting in Australia and turning it into a doom fortress. Original Risk belongs to a very crowded family of classic games that we like to call fun for the first hour, but then Risk Legacy came along and asked, what would happen if you played 15 sessions of Risk? Just 15, but the game remembered every session you'd had. Risk Legacy shocked the world by telling players to rip up cards, rewarding victorious players with stickers on the map to give them permanent bonuses and boxes of little goodies that took boring old Risk and elevated it to the stratosphere with a series of rule tweaks and restrictions that get added piece by piece along the campaign. Even 10 years on, I'm not going to spoil what's in these little boxes, but let's just say if you've ever played Risk and thought, hey, you know it'd be awesome if you could do this, there's a good chance that Risk Legacy will make you the happiest little camper. For anyone who loves Risk and has a bunch of friends who also love Risk, this is a nigh-on compulsory purchase. Number 7, My City. Most of the time, legacy games are somewhat luxury items, games that feel compelled to live up to certain epicness of design, huge maps, grand conflicts, world-shattering stakes, big boxes with big price tags. Thank heavens for My City, a review copy of which was kindly provided to us by Cosmos Games. My City is a Tetris-style puzzle game. You got a block of land that's going to be your city, and at the start of the campaign, you name it, a name you'll almost certainly come to regret, like your first Hotmail username. Every turn, players turn a card and all add the building on that card to their map. At the end, whoever's got the most points wins. It's so gentle. It takes 20 minutes to play. It's super addictive. It's perfect for 2 players. So if a couple's looking for a low-key, low-cost entry into Legacy, this is it. But just because the puzzle is quite whimsical doesn't make the game any less fiendish. In true Legacy style, the game comes with these envelopes. Each envelope contains maybe stickers, maybe extra buildings, maybe a brand new rule that turns the game on its head, making an addictive game of Tetris even more compulsive. It may not have the grand narrative scope of other Legacy titles, but what it lacks in bombast, it makes up for in tight, brisk, ever-surprising gameplay. Number 6, Mechakoro Legacy. Moving from a great game for couples to what is hands down the best Legacy game for parents to play with their kids. Mechakoro Legacy, kindly provided to us by the good people at Pandasaurus Games, is a Legacy version of well-established family game Mechakoro. It has adorable art, you build an adorable town which you can name yourself Oh No, and you roll these dice which aren't particularly adorable, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. It's a super light, super calm game of rolling dice, earning money depending on what you rolled, and buying more buildings so that you can hopefully earn more money on future turns in a race to get the most cash to unlock all your landmark cards. That's it. That's the whole original Mechakoro in one sentence. And if that sounds too light, stay with me, because hidden inside each of these little mystery boxes, without spoiling anything, are extra cards, extra little mechanics, tweaks to the base game which build up and up over the course of 10 games until you're left with something that really cooks. And unlike some Legacy games, once the overarching story of your town is done, you're still left with a game you can keep playing forever, and that game is even better than original Mechakoro. If you're looking to introduce your kids or brand new gamers to strategy games, the incremental progress and incremental complexity the Mechakoro Legacy provides is a perfect training program. Each game is about half an hour. It's a cute, light, beautiful looking game with more than enough going on under the hood to keep more experienced players engaged. Number 5, Pandemic Legacy Season 1. And here it is, the first proper across-the-board trend-launchingly successful Legacy game. Pandemic Legacy Season 1 landed in 2015 and blew up the gaming scene, dashing straight to the top of the Board Game Geek best games of all time. Risk Legacy may have been the first, but it was still Risk, and gamers don't like Risk. Gamers like Pandemic, and everyone loves Pandemic Legacy. Like most games of its type, Pandy Leg 1 came with a base game that people knew, but one that was incrementally tweaked over time to become a brand new beast of old mechanisms with new restrictions. But it also had this huge, exciting Hollywood blockbuster storyline of diseases mutating, gonna choose my words carefully, hordes of new components, devastating consequences where whole cities could be lost forever, boxes and boxes of goodies, pulse-pounding gameplay that breaks some of the most foundational rules of Pandemic in ways that'll actually shock even the most experienced Pandy players. It's still the #2 game of all time on BGG, we'll get to #1, and even 6 years and many Legacy titles later, the tricks it has up its sleeve, they're still some of the best in the genre. The fact there are 4 Legacy games we like even better shows just how exciting these bastards are. #4, The King's Dilemma. This is officially Game of Thrones the board game, except nope, this is Game of Thrones the board game. Like Game of Thrones, it's huge, expensive, cutthroat, stuffed with devious characters bribing and scheming to make kingdom-altering choices to suit the whims of their house, but unlike Game of Thrones, it sticks the landing. Each player is a house in a fantasy-style kingdom. These houses all want different things. Some desire pleasure, some crave power, some specifically want to live forever, mood, and a slim few of them actually care about, infrastructure and stuff. The king of this land would rather be fantasy golfing, leaving all the major decisions that face the kingdom to his small council, you guys. Each turn you'll be presented with decisions. For example, do we stage jousting games to boost city morale, or do we spend that money on, I don't know, food like total nerds? Each player secretly has an agenda they're following each game, which will guide their decisions, and then everyone votes, yay or nay, but it's like a super corrupt auction style of voting. You can bribe players to vote your way, you can store up voting tokens for one massive bid, there's lots of arguing, lots of role-playing, it is so excellent. Once a decision has been made, you find out the consequences, which takes the story in one of dozens of new directions. One of these 70+ envelopes might get opened, introducing new stories, closing off old ones with new decisions, new stickers added to the board, the kingdom shifting and changing, all as you fight to further your family's ultimate goal. Simply put, if you've ever wanted to be Varys from Game of Thrones, this is the game for you. #3, Pandemic Legacy Season 0. Pandemic Legacy Season 1 was the game changer. Pandemic Legacy Season 2 was a sequel that some people really liked, but was met with a cooler reception because it differed quite a lot from the core mechanics of Pandemic. The brand new Season 0 is a prequel, and while it doesn't quite capture the dazzling surprise of Series 1, it might just be the best in the trilogy. In a major departure from Pandemic's core MO, Season 0 isn't about fighting disease at all. Rather, it's set before all of that unpleasantness in the era of the Cold War, humanity's happiest period of time. No stress here. Instead of your standard scientists, soldiers, researchers, and a contingency planner that no one ever plays as, you're all CIA operatives with your own little fake passports, which is one of my favourite components in gaming. Look, you can build your very own character designs using layered stickers. That's rad as hammers and sicker than sickles. Take my money. As these agents, you travel the world in typical Pandemic style to collect cards, build bases, assassinate Soviet spies, in a storyline that I cannot and will not spoil, but it does involve a lot of vans, like if John le Carré wrote Scooby-Doo. Get on board. Season 0 is an expensive box, but you can see where a lot of that money goes. These components are excellent. It's the most passion you'll see surrounding passports outside of your least favorite uncle's Facebook comments section, and everywhere in the box there's surprise after surprise, more stickers, more cards, more bits, more story. There is story everywhere. Legacy games often feel like the most deluxe games in the hobby, and Season 0 is no exception. It is just stuffed with stuff, and I wish I could talk more about this awesome story, but I truly can't. #2, Gloomhaven. Alright, let's do it. Let's properly talk about Gloomhaven, the game that will cost you $100+, but also won pretty much every Game of the Year award going in 2017 and is still voted the very bestest game of all time ever. It is good, let us be clear about that, but it's also a small nightmare of components. Look at this coffin, how can a game be so big? That's because there's hundreds of cards, stickers, all these boxes containing unlockable characters, each with their own figure, decks of cards, the works. No joke, you can set up, start, finish and pack away a game of My City in the time it takes to set up Gloomhaven. If all this sounds bad, like, it is if you don't want all that storage and gameplay admin, but it's also because Gloomhaven is the luxury of luxuries. Maps you build, populated by enemies that you dungeon crawl your way through, starting as low-level characters with cool, unique powers. You gain XP, leveling up, allowing you more, bigger, better cards to play while playing this epically long Skyrim-style quest of necromancy, elemental danger and the like, with loads of side quests leading to more side quests and more stickers attached to this ever-expanding map of possibilities. You could play it constantly for months and still not finish it. I'll probably never finish it. Part D&D, part dungeon crawl, part hand management, part legacy with lots of cards getting destroyed and stickers and permanently upgrading characters for the next game. It's just so much. There's an updated version of the game out there called Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which replaces all the modular boards with a book you use as a board instead, making setup easier, and it's a bunch cheaper. But that almost seems to go against what Gloomhaven is for, which is to be the most board game ever made, at least until its sequel Frosthaven comes out. Goodness me. And number 1, Betrayal Legacy. This is my favourite Legacy game I've ever played. Yes, more than Gloomhaven, partly because it doesn't require me to take days off work just to get the thing out the box. Betrayal Legacy is a legacy version of widely beloved Betrayal at House on the Hill, and like that game, one of my favourites, just BT dub, you play explorers moving through a spooky house, unlocking spooky rooms, undergoing spooky events before a haunt happens that pitches one player versus the rest. Spooky. Like most legacy games, it starts small and builds up and up with more rooms, mechanisms, secret panels, stickers, and extra treats being added along the way. What makes this my favourite is 2 things. 1, legacy games are very ritualistic. You assemble, you play, you gather closer to unlock a new thing, and more than any theming, horror suits those rituals of legacy the best, unearthing new terrors you didn't know were there, hints of something else bigger waiting for you in the dark, your group becoming this little cult that speaks the language of the game, worships the helm, I won't explain what that means, but it's excellent, and heads into the unknown together. Second, it's one of my favourite player groups I've ever been a part of. I'm playing it with 4 specific people who are all very dear to me, and that elevates the game beyond objective mechanical and narrative richness into what makes something personally valuable. We all love horror, we all get a kick from the cruel surprises Betrayal has in store, and I'm not spoiling anything when I say that Betrayal Legacy has the best first game of a legacy campaign. We love it. We loved it. And in the end, that's what makes Legacy special. The tight-knit team that forms, the in-jokes, the memories only you will share. Should you get a Legacy game? Yes. Hopefully this list will help you choose which one, because you really should only get one at a time, because I'm so sorry for your wallet. And that's our list. Without spoilers, have you played a Legacy game? Which one? How did it go? Let us know below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends about us. Why not? See you next time, and get on board.